Happy Memorial Day. And today we are talking about poppies. So we are focused on sketching Flanders poppies today in honor of veterans on this Memorial Day weekend. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sketching some of these and talking about these. And I'm going to be just using some different kinds of paper and pencils. I might get around to colored pencils or some of these pastels. We'll see how our time goes. So first, I wanted to talk about the poppy family. So you may have joined me before when we did the California poppies. I think I did those last year. And so those are in the same family. We're talking about the Papaver family. It's got about 800 species. And they're mainly Northern Hemisphere, and they're worldwide, well, mainly Northern Hemisphere, but not in the tropics so much. Most of them are herbaceous flowers like this. The poppy family is famous for having a milky or colored sap or latex. And it's actually related. Of course, one of the members is the poppy we call opium poppy, Poppy somniferum. But we're not drawing that one today, but a close relative. So anyway, this family is known for having that milky latex. So if you were to cut one of these, you might see that. It depends on the species. And they also have these really crinkly petals. They always look like they're a little bit wrinkled. And generally they have 4 to 6 petals, depending on the genus. And they have 2 sepals that have already fallen off here. I can't show you them already on another flower. I don't want to pick one of the real flowers I have. But they have 2 sepals that fall off very early, and then 4 to 6 very crinkly petals. And the petals come in a bunch of different colors, white and pink and yellow and orange and red, like the Flanders poppy we're sketching today. So they come in a lot of different colors. Anyway, so there's the 4 petals here, and then there's many stamens. So kind of like the members of the rose family, but the rose family has more petals. And then you see they have this very interesting, unique center part, the ovary, and that is, once it's been pollinated, is going to turn into a fruit with many seeds. And so that is this seed pod. And this is a very unique seed pod of all the families of plants in the world. And it's got these pores here where the seeds come out. And these are pretty old, so the seeds have mainly come out already. But they're very tiny. They're like dust size. And these actually came from my garden, which came from my father's garden. And we'll talk more about that later. But anyway, so this is the very unique seed capsule. And so this is where the petals were attached at one time and the sepals. And then here's the stem. And so, again, the members of the poppy family generally have just a single a single flower and a really long stem. Now, there's many species of the 800 species that are growing worldwide in gardens. And actually, I did buy this beautiful specimen today locally here where I live in Bend, Oregon at Galveston Gardens, which I was telling you about earlier today. It went live from the gardens. But this one is the Champagne Bubbles cultivar. So anyway, once these go to seed, they kind of look like this, and they'll start to go nodding. And then when they become more mature, the fruit comes erect like this, and then the little tiny dust-like seeds fall out. So, and then the recognizing the leaves, they're generally dissected like this. And if you know the California poppy, it's much more dissected, in fact. And I was looking for the picture of that. I can't seem to find it. But anyway, we did illustrate the California poppy earlier. Okay, and so this family, again, is all the Northern Hemisphere, Europe and Asia, all the way actually down into Northern Africa. And but some of them you might recognize, especially from the United States, including Matalasia poppy, prickly poppy, wind poppy, bush poppy, so a lot of those other ones. Okay, so I'm going to set these aside. And now we're going to talk about this one. So in this family, the Papaveraceae or poppy family, it includes this kind of famous one, this red flowered one. And this is the Flanders poppy, named after Flanders Field. And today in an earlier post, I did post the entire poem that is actually what made this poppy famous and made it associated with Memorial Day as well as Remembrance Day on November 11th. But this poppy is notable as an agricultural weed and after World War II as a symbol of the dead soldiers. Due to the extent of ground disturbance in warfare, especially during World War I, these poppies bloomed along the trench lines and what they called no man's land on the Western Front. And so they are really symbolize resilience because they were able to bloom after all of that war. But of course, it was the disturbance of the soil which awakened the seeds, which made them grow better. So that is what happens with a lot of what we call weedy species, is they're the pioneers and they come in first after disturbance. Anyway, a tragic war, World War I, and the poem Flanders Field about the soldiers in the war, featuring Flanders poppy, was written in 1915. And so these do come in a bunch of different colors, and they signify different things. So like white poppies signify purity, yellow ones signify hope, pink ones signify kindness, and orange ones signify health. And then these red ones also symbolize resilience. But poppies in general, throughout the millennia, have a lot of symbolism, either symbolizing rebirth or death, or even sleep, related to the opium poppy, which puts one to sleep. So anyway, so this species, this is the Flanders poppy, Papaver roes, and is also known as the red poppy, Flanders poppy, common or corn poppy, or field poppy. And the words, the names corn and field poppy related to the fact that these do come up in disturbed areas like agricultural fields and cornfields, because again, the soil is being disturbed, and these weedy species that come up right away are favored. And so this species is native across Europe. And so again, that's why it was associated with World War I and now with World War II and just any war in general, and memorializing the veterans. So it was found throughout Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and India. And it has very, very tiny black seeds, like I told you. You've probably had poppy seeds on top of muffins and things, but these seeds are much smaller, but they are very edible and nutritious. Also, the petals created a red dye, and they're also sometimes dried for potpourri. Okay, so anyway, we are going to start sketching. Who's ready to sketch? I think we're going to start with this one. And I have made a pretty big, extensive handout for folks that join my Nature Nook program today. So I just thought I would mention that before we go on, and hopefully you'll get ready. Now you can do fine just working with me with this photograph here, but I did want to tell you that I have this whole handout for you. It's for people that join my program, the Nature Nook, and that is on sale. It was on sale all through this weekend, and it ends tonight at midnight Pacific. So we still have 9 hours till the sale ends. And that's a sale on my subscription program called the Nature Nook. And so I purchased these beautiful high-resolution images for folks that show all the parts of the flower and the maturing fruit from different angles so that you can practice sketching it. And, oh yeah, I have 2 copies because I went to the copy shop today. Didn't think I was going to get a real plant to sketch, but so this is a nice big handout. And so there is a link earlier in my Facebook feed that links to my program called the Nature Nook. And it also includes a workshop on California poppies. And you can see many of the similarities. It's got the 4 petals, they're kind of crinkly. And the sepals have already fallen off, and it's got those dissected leaves, kind of fern-like leaves. So we did this sketch previously in my California poppy workshop. And so I would really encourage you to check out my Nature Nook program. It's a monthly subscription. And so anyway, we're going to get sketching here. And so I am going to just tape this down. We're going to sketch this flower, and then we'll actually also try sketching some of these cool fruits. And I just wanted to show you these fruits before we get any farther. So here's the side view. I don't know if you can see them better with my magnifying glass. So this is actually my father's magnifying glass. I think I mentioned that I got these fruits from my garden, which originally their ancestors came from my father's garden, and he was in World War II, and he actually met my mother at a field hospital in 1942, I think. And so we had these growing, these Flanders poppies, and they must have reminded him about the war. But these, it might be hard for you to see with this weird light I have, but he had this beautiful magnifying glass that I still use. And so you can check it out. Anyway, the high resolution handout also has some pictures of these. So we'll sketch these later. We want to start off with what's super fun, right? So I hope you are ready. And I can't quite tell if there's any other messages. I do see 3 comments so far. And yes, hi Ginny, hi Connie, hi Nancy. Good, I'm glad you can see me and hear me. Isn't this fun? So, oh yeah, so I'm going to tape this picture down. And again, this is part of the handout. And if some of you guys are members of the Nature Nook, this 5-page handout of high resolution images is already in your Nature Nook for the month of May. So we always, again, like to look very closely at something before we get started, so we can really understand its anatomy better. So what we see again is this kind of oval of petals. You can't quite tell where one of the 4 petals starts and one begins, but that doesn't matter. But we do see that they're crinkly, so there's lots of highlights and shadows, and it's a little bit flattened here. And then you have the stem, and the stem is a little bit hairy. And you can see here, I don't know if you can see it better with this or not. I don't think this is working, but the stems are really hairy. So hopefully you can get a real flower to look at. Unfortunately, poppies aren't the best garden flower or cut flower because sort of the petals fall off and they're kind of wimpy if you just look at them sideways. So anyway, again, I thought I was just going to have to draw from photographs. So it was just at the last minute that I was able to get these beautiful flowers. But it is wonderful to be able to get fresh flowers and then to actually be able to dissect them. And then you can understand the structure better. So again, we've got the 4 petals, and then we've got these multiple sepals here. See all of those? All stamens, that is, with the anthers, which of course are the pollen-bearing structures. They're like the sperm of the plant, and those are going to be pollinating the female part here, hopefully of a different flower, and that's why we have bumblebees and honeybees to do that. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so we're going to get started. Christine, you said the handout is beautiful. Thank you. And Pamela says, thanks for all your info. Great. Okay, so let's get started. Basically, what I like to do is try to draw something about the same size, although it is really good practice to draw something larger or smaller than real life. But to make it easy for us now, since I'm not sure how many of you have drawn with me before, we're just going to try to make it the same size. And this is pretty much life size. Okay, so I just made some little tick marks for how wide it's going to be. And you notice we're looking at it a little bit from the side. So see how much skinnier it is than tall? Your eye might want to make it a big circle, but it's actually a lot skinnier than it is tall. So I might make a couple tick marks there too, really lightly. And good, let's see, I'm just making sure we're still live. Good. Okay, and so then I'm going to make this oval. And I'm going to be drawing darker than I want you to draw, okay? So double checking the width and the length. And, this doesn't have to be exact. It's not like we're drawing, a cat's face that has to have better proportions. The wonderful thing about plants is that they're so unique. And then coming up in the middle here is the stem that comes right up into the fruit. So this is actually an older flower where the male parts, these anthers on their filaments, have already wilted, and the fruit is actually really getting large and maturing. So it's it's getting a little larger than this one. And this fruit looks really cool because, can you see that? You see how fuzzy it is here? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these little ridges that are all fuzzy. And that's what the pollen sticks to and makes it more likely to be able to fertilize this developing fruit and make seeds. Get rid of that. So anyway, so then let's make a line here that's going to indicate our stem and coming up into the top of the fruit. And so it's kind of like, it's going to be kind of like this. Okay, so now we've got our basic shapes here. Okay, and so now I think I want to go around the edge and kind of slowly trace around the edge. And it helps me if I'm sort of making myself go more slowly by pointing with my finger or a pencil and just going around as if I was a little ant crawling along the edges. And remember, these petals are super crinkly and kind of wiggly. So it's a lot different than some flowers. I can't think of one right now, but that would, like a tulip, that have a really smooth ridge. Okay, so let's start here. And again, it doesn't really matter too much. We're just going to go around. We're just going to have fun with this. No rush. Wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. And we have this one petal that looks like it's sort of under another petal maybe. Okay, kind of came back to the right spot. Okay, now I'm going to clean up my edges just a little bit, I think. Now, you may know I'm a professional scientific illustrator, and I'm actually illustrating a series of books on habitats of the world right now. And when I'm creating a more formal illustration, I'll just do it on this kind of scratch paper like this, and then I'll use transfer paper or tracing paper to transfer the final outline to higher quality piece of paper, like watercolor paper, if I was going to finish up with that. Okay, now let's see what else. Okay, so then we notice there's this other little line of petals. And it doesn't really matter, again, that we can't see where one petal starts and one petal ends. We're just going to be looking at various values here. So I just want to kind of continue on. Let me just pretend it's about right there. So we're just going to take this crinkly line of petal, and it kind of looks like it just kind of comes over here. So it kind of looks like maybe there's like 3 petals over here and 1 over here. Okay. Now the easy part is we're going to add the stem, and we're just going to put that about here. Later on, we'll shadow it and put some little hairs on it. Again, pretty hairy stem here. I don't know if you can see that. Probably can't. But anyway, okay. So next, we're going to do the central part. So again, as we saw in the fruits, the stem continues on. It's kind of like this, right? Or sort of like this is what we have, really. And that's what's happening right here. But we're kind of looking at it from the side. Again, this flower sort of turned towards us a bit, and that's why it's not quite a circle. We're not looking at it from the top. We're looking at it 3/4 view. Okie dokie. So let's add that. So we see that there's a bunch of shadows here. And so I want to put my special capsule right about here. And remember, this is a very unique fruit type. A lot of, some families have very unique fruit types, like strawberries that have the little berries on the outside, and maple trees that have the really pretty samara with the 2 wings. So some plant families do have kind of unique and interesting fruits. Okay, so here's the top, and then the side. And again, I think, well, I'm going to shadow this a bunch, so this doesn't really matter that I lighten this up too much. I just like to lighten that line a bit. And then we're going to see these ridges. And again, looking at our real flower, I don't want to tear this one up too much. Looking at our real flower again, these are these ridges, these beautiful ridges that are fuzzier in this younger flower, but they become quite hard in this area. And then again, they change as they get older. And I always suggest when you're learning to draw something to really look at as many specimens as you can, so that you really understand the unity and diversity in the family. So that, like, you know, if you were to draw a 4-leaf clover and you wouldn't bother to look that it's kind of a rare number of leaves on a clover, that wouldn't be really representative of the family, would it? So I always suggest, if you're going to draw something, to look at a lot of samples. Okay, so anyway, this is basically what we have here. And so you see there's a certain number of these radiating lines. And I don't know if we want to count them, but again, it helps me if I kind of point. And since this is facing away from us a little bit, it's not going to be as if we're looking at it from the very top. Okay, so not all these radiating lines will be the same length. So we're looking at this a little bit from the side, so that that center part that basically connects with this, we're a little bit off here, but anyway, it's a little bit higher here. And so there's these radiating lines. And I can't really draw and count at the same time, but we're getting kind of, that's it. So like if I really was going to do a scientific illustration or a botanical drawing, I would count these and see if there's the same number in all of them. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's interesting. That's kind of an odd number. I don't know if all of them have that. Anyway, we're not going to deal with it too much because we can't see that area too much. Okay. I think I'm just going to change the angle of my stem just a little bit so it connects better with my fruit. Maybe like that, because then again it goes up here. Okay. So then we have all of these, the male part here, and we're not going to put those in yet. We're going to put those in last because they're the darkest value, and we want to add the highlights and shadows to all the petals first and the top of the capsule, I think, before we add those in with a really sharp pencil like this. So I think what we're going to do now is continue on with the shadowing. So I think, you know, whatever pencil you have, you know, I have this mechanical pencil, but that would probably take me longer. So I've just got this fatter, richer pencil, a 6B. And I also have this little blending tool I'll use. And, oh, let's remind us that this is the Flanders Poppy. Now, I'm really not sure if there's supposed to be an apostrophe here or not. I've seen it both ways. So I'm not sure if it's talking about the poppy that belonged to Flanders or that there's several Flanders. So I'm just going to leave it out for now. Flanders Poppy. And that's the genus Papaver, same genus as our opium poppy. And the species name or specific epithet, or epithet, however you say it. There we go. I like to be scientific. Okay, so who's ready to start shadowing? I can put that here. This one actually, the champagne bubbles poppy we have, is a different species. This is Papaver nudicaula. Fragrant, silky textured, bright yellow flowers. Okie dokie. So anyway, who's ready to start shadowing? Okay. I'm going to check the comments. Again, if you want to comment, I could probably see it. Jenny, Christine, Pamela have commented. Great. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're watching here. Alrighty. So when we start to add some highlights and shadows, it's good to think about values. And as much as it would be super fun to just jump into colors, I always like to start when I'm drawing something, especially the first time I'm drawing it and I'm really trying to understand its structure, drawing it in just values in graphite. Before I get kind of carried away with all of my colors that, I could have, right? Which we might do in another broadcast. So looking at this, just thinking of it in terms of values. And if you followed me long, you might know that one thing I sometimes do is I sometimes turn something upside down. And if you happen to have been a member of the Nature Nook and downloaded your high resolution images that come with my program, the Nature Nook, you could turn it upside down, but otherwise you could just notice what I've done. So when you turn something upside down, it really helps you to see the values better and to take your mind away from really thinking about this as a stem and a petal and getting worried that you can't draw a pretty petal or a pretty flower. Sometimes when you turn something upside down, it helps your brain to move over to the right side and not to name things, but to, to just see the values, lights and darks. And so here I've made this value scale and I have these available to download, again, in my program, the Nature Nook, that's on sale today. You can find a link to it in a previous post on this page, my Facebook business page. But if you see a value scale from 0, which means just the white of the paper, to 5 in this case, which would mean as black as you can go with whatever chosen medium you have, you see we have a range here. We really don't have any zeros, but we do have some ones in the highlights, and we have some maybe 4s in these shadows. And then our darkest values are down in this deep shadow at the base of the fruit, and also of the filaments and the anthers, right? Okay, so now I'm going to turn this back right side up, and maybe that will have helped you to see this in a different way. Is this still? Yeah. Sorry, I'm checking on my laptop to make sure. Yes, Ginny says Flanders Field's Poppy from the poem. Yes, if you noticed, I did post that poem this morning on this same Facebook page. You should see it down below. Okay, great. I'm so happy we have a few people here watching, and I hope you're participating. Alrighty, so where are we going to start? Again, I like to kind of keep pointing, let's see. I like to help us just stay focused here. So I'm just going to point at the area I'm going to work at, and then we're just going to get some graphite down, and then we're going to blend it with the blending stump, and then maybe darken it up more with the pencil and the mechanical pencil for the very sharp, dark male filaments and the anthers. Okay, how's that sound? Alrighty. I hope you're liking this new format. It's fun for me, and I hope it's fun for you too. And it's a little bit more nerve-wracking to try to draw and talk at the same time compared to what I've mainly been doing for the last 4 years. As you know, I probably know I've been doing these live workshops on Crowdcast, but the art part was pre-filmed just to make it a little easier. But I thought this would be more fun. Since some people are home from work today, maybe you could follow along. Alrighty, so again, to help me stay focused, because it's really easy for me, I have pretty severe ADHD, So it's pretty easy for me to get sidetracked on different things. And so I am going to use this pencil to keep me focused. And I think, yeah, we're just going to go around. Let's start at these lighter values, and we're just going to go around here and just start to blend it. There's really no right or wrong. Again, we're not trying to do a botanical illustration here. And we can always lighten and darken as we go. And so I'm just kind of I'm going to be getting the big areas here of maybe the lighter areas first. And we'll get the more particular highlights and shadows later. Again, this medium of the graphite is very forgiving. And notice how these shadows are kind of radiating out from the center. So that's something you could kind of notice. So we can just be sort of down and dirty with this, sort of. I'm just going to start getting really dark under here. Really dark here. And I got a pencil on the side, which can get darker values. But it's also harder to kind of do perfectly. And then this whole area is much darker. A lot of it, again, if I moved this here, I could see most of this area is maybe a 3. It's almost all a very flat 3. And let's see, let's get our stem in because that's easy. That's a little bit darker. On the left side. Okay. And so then, again, just continuing on some more. We're just going to keep working on it. So I'll darken this cap. It's pretty dark compared to the values next to it. And you see it's got some markings. They're like these kind of random markings. I hope my phone is going to stay. Okay. And again, we're pretending these the anthers aren't here yet because they are the darkest value. So we're going to add those with a sharp pencil. Now let's see what happens when we start blending, and then we'll continue to darken the darks and lighten the lights at the end with an eraser. So what happens when I start blending? This is a blending stomp. You could also use your finger or a Q-tip, something like this, Kleenex. Anyway, I'm just gonna so you see how this flattens it out. You see like there's this big area. And eventually you'll get a lot of graphite on here. And then it can start blending kind of as its own tool. Now, I'm not really sure how long my phone is going to last live streaming like this. So I'm going to try to just start really finishing some parts of this just in case my phone dies. Let me get a little bit more shadows in here. So let me just get this area really well. Okay, and again, we're thinking about these value scales. I have no idea how much power I have on my phone. But let's just work on this area here. Because this is a nice big, look at how even that value is in there. Anyway, if my phone dies, I would have to plug it back in and then I'll come back live later. So you could watch the replay. Just warning you. And then there's another area that's pretty dark in here, isn't there? And then I might blend that some more. So again, I always suggest people start with graphite, even if they're going to do a watercolor or something, just as a study. Okay, so again, that's just this little area sort of finished. And so I want to add these anthers and filaments. And there's a whole bunch of them. You don't have to count them, but you can see. Something like that. Might be a darker though. Well, you can't see those very well, can we? We might have to lighten it up. I wonder if we can do that with this. No, maybe I went too dark. Okay, but anyway, let's keep going. It looks like we're doing okay here. Let's get some of these crinkles. So remember, we want to accentuate crinkles. That's one of the family characteristics. And again, I might blend it here. Now that you can start getting graphite on your hand, so be careful. Sometimes I might put a piece of paper down like this while I'm drawing so that I don't get the graphite on my hand. So if we just start blending this some more. And blending this some more. We do want to keep this light line here because this petal is coming forward. What I really need is my sharp sand imbued eraser, which I don't seem to have right now. But anyway. If you can't go lighter, you can always go darker next to it, and that'll help lift that edge. There we go. Then that petal edge looks like it's coming towards us. Because you can only go so light, so if you're too dark already, then go dark. Does that make sense? I don't know. Okay, so that's starting to look a little bit. You got to be bold. Go big or go home, they say. All right, so, well, it looks like we're still streaming and we still have people here. So we can keep going. See, I really want to make this lid of the capsule pop out a bit. So that means I have to darken this a little bit more, don't I? All right, that's a little better. All right. Again, like I said, I'm not used to, it's very challenging to try to draw and talk at the same time. It's hard to get in your right brain. So it's a little bit harder to draw as accurately as I'd like to, but today's not about you like carbon copying what I'm doing. It's just the concept of that we're drawing together. See a lot of shadowing in here. And you can check out some of my techniques. Again, I have much more in-depth workshops that go a lot more into depth into the anatomy and biology of families of flowering plants, as well as all kinds of other birds and mammals and reptiles and amphibians and insects in my program called the Nature Nook. And again, that's been on sale this weekend, kind of celebrating the beginning, an unofficial beginning of summer. And you can find a link in a previous post, or if you're on my email list, I sent out a reminder email today about the sale and also about today's live post. How we doing here? Tell me in the chat box how we're doing. Trying to find my black. So I see that we really need a value difference here, that this is all too much the same. So I'm going to see how these play together. I don't know if these play together so well, but I just feel like I need to darken this area up. That helped a little bit. Okay. Blending, blending. Okay, let's add some more of these anthers and their filaments. And don't make them too perfect. Nature is a very messy place. Let's see. Oop. Well, I seem to have trying to watch here what we're doing here. There we go. We're still live. Okay. All right. Okay. And maybe I'll add a little bit of these tiny hairs. There are these little tiny hairs that come off the stem. That's kind of fun. Okay. So anyway, you could play with this a lot more. You know, there's so many fine details here, and we could just keep, you know, going around and around, starting here and moving over and just looking, adding a little bit more crinkles. And again, you're probably going to be able to do a better job than me because it's very hard to draw and talk at the same time. That's why I generally pre-record these tutorials. So I hope my drawing is good enough for you today. Yeah, I think I'd really like a little bit more contrast here. So far, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, like I said, so I always suggest starting with just black and white so you can study the values before you get into color. Now, other fun color things you could do could include like these Prismacolor water-soluble pencils, which I really love. And so if I was going to draw one of these and that, I would be layering these, and we don't have time, and I think my phone's probably going to die. We don't have time to do that, but these are Prismacolor water-soluble pencils. Here they are, some of my favorites, and I love to use these out in the field too. And Ginny says, I'm doing great. Drawing and talking is challenging. Yeah. And I'm glad, Ginny, you went back and maybe did some lightening, because we see we have too many, too smooth values in here. But anyway, if I was going to take these just for fun, I am on a type of paper that is sort of a mixed media paper. So, you know, we see some various colors in here. Oops, what fell? Uh-oh. One of my succulents fell. I've been moving things around here. Like I said, I've been switching this bedroom from a guest bedroom to become my filming studio so that I can film things more for you and better for you. So just kind of showing you, sometimes, you know, I like to just play with the media. These are brand new to me. I mean, I've used these before, but this set is brand new. I bought these at Staples today while I was getting these beautiful high-resolution images printed for you. And again, I just want to remind you that these high-resolution images I do purchase, so I am having these included when you purchase the Nature Nook in the month of May. You get these. Yeah. So you can take one of these fun field watercolor brushes and, you know, you can just wet some parts and not others, you know, if you want to keep some things firm. So this would be kind of the start of the color palette I would use if I was going to watercolor this. Probably want to have a little bit of darker green as well here. And even some, you know, I like to layer my colors, so even purple or something. Now, if we were drawing more larger, it would be fun to use something like a soft pastel. And so I have some of those here, so that would be fun. I want to keep it kind of muted and layered. So again, I might want to, you know, layer these. Layer and blend. Kind of like this. And these can be blended with your finger if you want. That's real fun, and kids love these. I love doing pastels with kids. Actually, the next month, I will be at the Sun River Nature Center again. There's a big wildflower festival, and I'll be doing chalk and oil pastels with kids, studying the local flowers. So that should be fun. So anyway, all these color media are really nice to blend, you know, two different colors on top of each other. It makes them much more realistic. Isn't that cool? Again, we just got started because this could really take a few hours to really shadow this realistically. But we just got you started, mainly, hopefully, understanding the three-dimensional form of these flowers and understanding their role, symbolism for Memorial Day and Remembrance Day, partly from the poem In Flanders Fields by the Canadian Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, who wrote the beautiful poem I posted earlier today in 1915. Well, I hope you enjoyed following along to this sketching tutorial and enjoyed learning about the Flanders poppy and a little bit about Memorial Day. So I hope you have a wonderful day and continue to work on your sketches using the reference photos that were included in this video. So have a wonderful day and a wonderful Memorial Day. Take care. Bye-bye.